We are Kijenzi. Our Kijenzi 3D printer systems make medical equipment for rural healthcare facilities in the developing world. We solve the problem of long, expensive, non-existent supply chains for medical equipment for rural healthcare facilities, and our systems make what they need.
In several years of living and working in East Africa, we have met dozens of healthcare workers who have told us their stories and challenges about maintaining medical equipment. And studies show that much of this equipment is past its service life, and it often sits broken without access to spare parts. In fact, 67% of the developing world healthcare clinics lack the minimum medical equipment required for their level. And 40% of developing world healthcare clinics have medical equipment that is completely unusable. Every rural clinic suffers from a lack of access to the medical devices that they require. And the problem is the long, expensive, and non-existent supply chains for not only the equipment, but the spare parts and consumables needed for operating the equipment. And the result of all this is hospital graveyards filled with unusable equipment. However, over 30% of this equipment could be made usable again with access to spare parts.
So many people have had the idea that 3D printing could make the spare parts needed for keeping these equipment running. However, when we tried using 3D printing in rural Western Kenyan hospitals, we found the current technology falling way short of what is needed. 3D printing lacks the user-friendliness and robustness required to impact rural healthcare. This inspired us to begin a full redesign of what 3D printing looks like, eliminating the need for computers, CAD, and difficult-to-source components, and to create a quality control system to minimize plastic waste. We've been testing our systems in Kenya, Tanzania, and South Sudan within hospital systems and with local entrepreneurs. Our goal is to make sure that our 3D printing systems are based on real evidence, that they have local support, and then they're part of the local and regional healthcare networks. We've also had great discussions with medical suppliers who see this as another supply resource for their businesses.
Some early outcomes from our trials include this clubfoot brace, which is used to treat a global health problem that is especially prevalent in East Africa. Our brace functions better than the original designs and is able to bring the cost down from $300 down to $10. So consider this. Microscopes needed for malaria testing are often lacking spare parts throughout Western Kenya, and this makes them completely unusable. However, we were able to 3D print 4-cent knobs needed to get many of these $1,000 microscopes back up and running. So we spent 9 of the last 18 months in East Africa, testing some of our technology, working with people, and embedding ourselves into hospitals, medical schools, and makerspaces to try to get a picture of what this system might look like.
So there are some significant hurdles to desirability, feasibility, and viability, and that led us to the Kijenzi 3D printer system. We realized that we needed a system that is accessible to a much wider range of end users. So the use of the Kijenzi 3D printer system looks something like this. If I have a piece of medical equipment, let's say, that has a broken part, what I can do is use the Kijenzi app to find that part and then download it off the internet. I can then push that file over Bluetooth from the app to a 3D printer. 3D printer can print the part out, put it back into the machine, and I am up and running. Kijenzi 3D printer systems eliminate the need for computers, CAD, the creation of STL files, and an understanding of G-code. Kijenzi 3D printer systems are designed to train and encourage people to become technology entrepreneurs. We've moved through roughly 10 generations of product prototypes. In December, we finished the first completely Kenyan-sourced build of the system. Next prototypes will cover a few design for manufacturability issues and the simplification of end-user assembly. Kijenzi 3D printer systems are a turnkey solution that allow healthcare systems access to a web-based storefront filled with tens of thousands of already designed parts. Doctors, occupational therapists, medical teachers, and maintenance staff can make requests to the system, and procurement officers can order parts from Kijenzi. These parts are downloaded by certified local entrepreneurs using the Kijenzi app over widely available smartphones, and then pushed over Bluetooth to Kijenzi 3D printer systems. We are training entrepreneurs to serve as an alternative, localized, and simplified supplier for their local hospitals. We've been building a network of worldwide engineers to populate the library and are developing protocols with appropriate standards and health agencies for approving designs and maintaining quality control.
Kijenzi enables the localized manufacturing of medical equipment spare parts, non-invasive medical devices, and different consumables that might have long, expensive, if they exist at all, supply chains. We bring 3D printing to a much wider audience by creating systems that require little more capability than operating a paper printer and require no access to computers or design software. Some of the innovations of this system include a computerless interface. Computers are hard to find in East Africa, so we just eliminated that completely. Our system is also CAD-less. It can be very difficult to find people with the experience required for creating designs for 3D printing. So in other words, our systems are simpler and more accessible to a greater range of people. We hope to be able to use this turnkey system to encourage entrepreneurs to solve the healthcare supply chain problems local to their area.
So we've been building the Kijenzi team for over 2 years. So we've got a US-based team with over 10 years of East African experience and a great co-development team in Kenya, along with local and regional partners that are excited to get the Kijenzi 3D printer system off the ground. So Kijenzi has a really scalable business model. We intend to scale geographically. We intend to scale in terms of the parts that are in the library, both within medical healthcare field and outside of that. We intend to also scale in terms of the types of 3D printers that will be available through our 3D printer systems.
So in one 4-month period, we embedded our team in a Western Kenya county hospital system. And customers there generated a list of over 200 products that they need frequently. And with 3D printed parts costing about 10% of the original part cost, we established the value of these components to these customers. We will use the excitement generated by these customers for these 3D printed components to generate more interest for entrepreneurs so that they can purchase the Kijenzi 3D printing system. We also work with local government agencies and non-governmental innovation and training hubs where we can engage and partner with them to improve existing efforts to introduce new skills to the Kenyan workforce and new capabilities to the Kenyan economy. Each part we print represents a new capability for a rural healthcare provider and better health for the people that they serve. 70% of the world receives their healthcare through these often dilapidated networks, and Kijenzi is dedicated to using digital manufacturing to help revitalize those facilities and keep them stocked. 2 key measures of our success is the number of machines put back into action with our parts and the number of new entrepreneurs using our systems.
Beginning in April, we're going to spend 5 months where 20 of the founders and interns from both the US and Kenya are going to work with local partners to test our technology and our business model. We are Kijenzi. We make healthcare in the developing world work.